I'm Sam Mitchell, and these are my stories. Hi folks, having a good day today. Let me first welcome you to Autism Rocks and Rolls. Now before we begin, I must note that I'm not a doctor psychiatrist. If you're starting to be diagnosed with autism, please see a physician, at least based on my experiences. I'll start on the right to the intro and outro that I found on ytmp3.com. They also have a mission statement I'd like to review with all of you. The mission of Autism Rocks and Rolls is to take the stigma off of autism and other conditions that many think are disabilities. People on the spectrum are not broken and do not need to be fixed. Those who have conditions or abilities want to be pitied. There's nothing to be sorry about. I also have some people I'd like to thank. First, I must indeed thank my latest guest, Luis Marinucci, in C234 in the Deep Blue Sea with Luis Marinucci, but what a great guy, and he is truly the epitome of Autism Rocks and Rolls. I have received some more Cutthroat Kitchen fan mail. This piece of mail is from Chef Jeremiah Bullfrog. Thank you for hearing me out, man. Some Saturdays ago, AR ran by Bedford to get a gift card from Magic Morning Bakery that you'll be using in the future. We appreciate Magic Morning's Bakery's kind donation and their delicious treats. And since the last episode, I've been featured on some podcasts. I was on the Public Access podcast with Rusty Diamond, Meet the Elite podcast with Meet the Elite Team, the Joey Conklin Show with Joey Conklin, and the Success After Trauma podcast with Greg Fizz. What great podcast, everyone. For today, we have a popular pro wrestling legend. Some of you might know her as Victoria from WWE or Tara from TNA. Coming from the world of bodybuilding and fitness, she took pro wrestling by storm because she has held the women's championship in both companies. With WWE legend Chyna's encouragement, she became a two-time WWE women's champion, a five-time TNA women's knockout champion, and even a member of Vince's Devils. I have her on my show for two reasons. The first reason is that at a point in her career, she represented mental health by portraying a demented, sadistic villainess while feuding with WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus. Secondly, when she is outside the ring, she is one of the nicest human beings you will ever meet. As I believe that she has this aura where after someone speaks to her, you will leave feeling better about yourself. Let's welcome a retired bodybuilder, entrepreneur, retired cheerleader, and WWE legend to the podcast, Autism Rocks and Rolls. Victoria, how we doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. What an amazing intro. The part that almost made me cry up is like when you leave meeting me, you feel good about yourself. Oh my goodness.
You do. I think a lot of people do. And I'm not just saying that from me. There were like people before I met you that said that.
Oh, I want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. And I love your intro about saying don't feel sorry for autistic people. And it's amazing. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much, Sam.
So my first question to you is, what did representing mental health mean to you?
Oh my goodness. I did a lot of volunteer work. I was with Make-A-Wish Foundation and they had a Make-A-Wish segment on there. And I would visit mentally challenged kids with mostly Down syndrome and major fans. I don't treat them much differently than everybody else, what I think is very important, but we need to have that awareness. I think when people like parents, like I'm ADHD and I only got diagnosed 7 years ago for ADHD. And I wish like people were a little bit more cognizant of what symptoms are. For all the old school parents and people having kids, get them tested out because
there could be a reason, hands down, why they're doing this. It may not be the way, unfortunately, that society lives anymore, where you have that old school mind, but it's a behavior and you're going to punish us for something we can't help. Seriously?
Exactly. Amen. 100%.
And what were your initial thoughts when you learned that you were going to represent mental health?
I was very honored when they asked me to do this. There's no questions or anything like that. I just, okay, what do you need me to do? Visit homes. When you're picked out to go visit certain genres, I also was part of the Rock the Vote, getting people to vote, and also a lot of mental health. And when you get picked out to do this and charities and stuff like that, it's an honor because it's easy. I'm good with people.
You really are good with people. I don't know where that comes from. I have a question about that later, but my mind was wishing you're a part of Make-A-Wish. I got another organization for you. This is one of my previous guests, and for the listeners, C219 on the silver screen with Tamika Lamison, but she runs in California Make-A Film Foundation. It's basically Make-A-Wish, but with movies.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'm in San Diego, so that's just 2.5 hour drive. So you can reach out to reach out to me.
I will definitely tell her to do that because it's definitely where they take these children with life-threatening conditions and unfortunate illnesses. They get to live out their legacy by making films. And I watched some of the films. They're not like out in the backyard boonies. They're like high-tech quality, hanging out with Johnny Depp and J.K. Simmons.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, reach out to them.
Based on playing Victoria, how do you think someone with mental health issues brain operate?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. but I think we all have a little bit of a psychotic gene in our system. How I got that psycho character was the way I wrestled. They thought I wrestled very psychotically, and I thought I was just being more aggressive and more exaggerated and more vocal. Did I question it? Of course not. I enjoyed my character. I never even saw myself psychotic, to be honest with you. Thank goodness for Stevie Richards. I got to work with him. And I guess we're both psychotic wrestlers, evidently, this label, but I loved it. Maybe they gave my character and they were like, made me go to do all the visits. I don't think so, but do you think
Maybe,
so?
who knows? But who cares at this point? You represented mental health in the best way possible. You helped out a teenage boy who was not in the most pleasant place at his time. I mean, the characters that are like you, the Boogeyman, the Undertaker, they're like over the top phenomenal, literally, because even though I'm not a fan of horror movies, I don't mind being the guy scaring people. I just don't like being scared though. But I knew it was fake and it wasn't real out in the real world.
Yes. And I have to explain to people that we are a storyline. We are a movie or a TV series, and the show must go on, and we don't really exactly get to pick what we do. It's because it's a show. Some actors are told to do a certain character and you're like, okay, what am I portraying? But I went with it. I rolled with it and I loved it, and that's one of my favorite characters. Thank you for that.
Now, what is the most rewarding and the most difficult part when you represented mental health?
I don't think there was a difficult time. I treat everybody equally, and honestly, there wasn't a difficult time. It was more rewarding than anything.
I think there was one difficulty you kind of mentioned in interviews before. People thought you were her in real life.
Yes. And that's why I find, especially when you're active on the roster, you find that people are afraid to talk to you. And even to this day, when I do appearances at the Square Circle Expo that we met, that people are like, wow, you are completely opposite than your character. And I'm like, don't forget, we're acting as well, because I became that bully from school that people hated and did what the bullies did, that they're going to make people hate me. But I was never that person. I'm a nice person.
I want to meet you regardless through that expo, but I just knew previously because of testimonies through other people. But I'll just tell you this, if those testimonies did not exist, I would have thought you were Victoria, period.
The thing about with wrestling fans too, and the podcasts and all these appearances I do, wrestling fans are super loyal. And I made so many friends along this business, not wrestlers, but the fans become my friends. It's a big family. And I think what brings us all together is we're wrestling fans. So every wrestling fans get along. It's almost like a church.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's what I appreciate right there, too, because when I've noticed, there's some wrestlers, and I'm not trying to name your friends, or just there's a whole population of pro wrestlers, they let money get to their head. They aren't people where you're like, oh, hey, we're like, I'm not doing these meet and greets. You kidding me? But you got a fan base.
That's baffling to me, Sam, because who pays our bills is our fans. So I don't understand that mentality. My generation, we didn't make a ton of money. I think the girls do well now, and the guys do, they pay very well, but we're very passionate about what we do. And we know that meet and greet and podcasts and appearances are part of the business.
Even though I don't agree with it, I understand it to a point, because it would be exhausting to do meet and greet weekend in, weekend out. Like you had one I saw last week on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know how you could do that both days. I'd be like, all right, let's go Saturday, whoop-de-doo. Then Sunday, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Sam, most weekends I do a lot of Comic-Con, but they are exhausting. Don't get me wrong. When I come home, I need to sleep a day and recoup. But for me, I enjoy them. It's not work. I get to reunions with old friends and meet new fan base and new people and realize what they appreciated about my character, like in WWE and TNA. I do need 2 days usually to recharge because I'm preparing for the next weekend. And for me, I don't want anybody to meet me and be disappointed. I'm not going out after the show. I need to go get some sleep because tomorrow I got to rock and roll for the fans too.
And I do have a question about Square Circle and a certain karaoke performance, but I'll get into that later. But before I do, what advice would you give to others who want to represent mental health?
Oh my gosh. I think a lot of people are suffering mental health, like with depression. A lot of people can't afford to go to a shrink or get that health insurance, but there are online avenues to get some help. I encourage like my coworkers and other wrestlers, you got to be involved. You got to know what's going on these days, and adulting life gets in the way. Also too, like us wrestlers, we're really focused. We're like 3 to 4 days on the road on the weekend to take that time to recoup and vent. I always tell people therapist is not a bad word. If you need a therapist, you need someone to vent to, because I don't think there's not one perfect person we need.
There is not a person who not made one mistake in their life. You could talk to the nicest person in the guy and the most politest person. Even he probably forgot to pass the salt. We'll talk about the Squared Circle Expo. So how did you get to attend the Squared Circle Expo?
I was reached out by ADT Promotions. I was originally supposed to do just Saturday. And I was like, isn't this a 2-day event? And they said, yes. And I go, why don't you have me booked on both days? They said they never worked with me. They didn't know how it was going to go. I go, well, let me come out Friday too. And so I asked to be included on Friday. I don't like to go just do a 1-day thing unless it's a wrestling independent show. Usually they're just 1 day. I'm not the high maintenance kind of wrestler that goes, I only do Saturday 12 to 3. I'm the whole entire day, the whole hall. I enjoy it.
Yeah, you're not like MJF from AEW going like, all right, I'm doing this. I demand to be the highest paid wrestler. And I bet part of it was character.
I think most of it's character, because I was hearing stories at these conventions, Sam. We don't really get to go wander around and go say hi, because what if someone's at our table wanting to meet us and then they have some other panel to go to? I'll take a break to go tinkle or go get outside to get fresh air and not being stuck in the convention center. I'll go, okay, let me get some coffee. I need to be energetic. I don't want anybody to be disappointed meeting me. I hope, because I don't want to know people that are like that. Because generally my friends I hang out with are very down to earth and people,
Yeah,
people,
I'll give you props though with MJF. I haven't seen much with him, but I've heard he's probably one of the greatest wrestling heels of all time.
And also too, you got to keep in mind, back in the day when I was in WWE as that psycho character, I didn't do a lot of appearances, Sam, because it was old school mentality where we played our character. So we were not allowed to be friendly with the fans because we wanted them to think that we're really that character. Even though a lot of people knew it was entertainment, there was a lot of people that didn't know it was entertainment. So we wanted to play the character even outside of the ring. So when I was wrestling against Trish, Lita, Mickey James, we never traveled together because we were not supposed to be seen together because we have a big wrestling angle. A good heel is old school where they play their character in real life, which is very difficult for me because I'm not that bad guy mentality. I'm a nice person. I treat everybody with respect. That was the hardest part. Like when I went to a restaurant and a fan came up to me and they're like, oh, you're actually nice. And I go, well, is Trish Stratus around? Because I'm not going to be nice if she's here.
I hope he's not like that, but it makes me interested.
It is interesting. Yeah. I'd like to know too. It would be weird to go see when Undertaker was Undertaker, to go see him do a meet and greet or a convention and him going, hey buddy, how you doing? You're like, oh, I don't want to hear Undertaker talk like that. I want Undertaker to be Undertaker. Yeah.
And there's a funny story with that, actually, I can tell you. So at the expo, there was like this wrestling show. You were there, I think, because you're with our buddy, Scott Hullett. And did your flight mess up that day, by the way?
No, I
someone told me your flight screwed up on Saturday. Maybe it was just
no. Okay, well, I was supposed to fly out that night, and there was no way I was going to make my flight because I know I had an early flight. That would have meant I would have had to left 2 hours early that day. And I'm like, please don't let me leave early. Take advantage that I'm there. And so I would have never made my flight anyway. So we just postponed the flight to the next day. And I did go to that wrestling show. And one of my favorite wrestlers is Colt Cabana. And I got to see him perform. And I missed Mickey. I got to see Nick Aldis wrestle. And I do like to go to indies because I do like watching as a fan because I still am a fan.
Oh, me too. Hands down. I found wrestling since I was 6. I ain't growing out of it for nothing, man. But I got to be honest. I like Shark Boy. Shark Boy's way better.
No, I'm sorry. I love Shark Boy.
You can't go wrong with Shark Boy.
I have one of his masks from 15 years ago. I still have it. Yes. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
The funniest thing though with that, so these guys were coming out. I think it was against the Headbangers. These other guys, you're talking about not breaking character. This manager would not break character. Like I tried to get him a high five, like talking to him outside. Same guy you would think as the guy from the sidelines, booing people, telling them, sticking the tongue out.
But see, I like that, especially after you do a wrestling show. When you're a heel, which is a bad guy for you guys new watching, babyface is a good guy for you guys new watching. When you're a heel and you just wrestled a show and they go back out and sign autographs afterwards, I feel bad for the heels because you don't get paid a lot of money. So you want to sell the 8x10s and photo op with you to make extra money, but they just did a bad guy. You have to be in character after you just did a show.
Yeah, it seems like heels have more responsibilities.
Very true.
But to be honest though, I would want to be that guy, oddly enough. Like I would want to go to meet and greets and go, I had too much fun with that.
I think they do too. I remember going to TNA and ODB was the bad guy and I was the good guy. And I did the meet and greet. And so they paid extra for the meet and greet during that tour. We would go somewhere really obscure and not be seen by people. I would get her dinner. She goes, "Why are you getting my dinner?" And I go, "Well, you were the heel. I was the baby face. I made more money tonight. I'd like to buy you dinner." She goes, "Oh my gosh, Lisa," or Tara at the time. "No one does that." And I'm like, "Well, shame on them because it takes two in the ring. The heel and the baby face are a team making a good match. Take care of each other." That's my point.
Yeah, as a song reference, what's a song? You're a hip hop fan, so Rob E. Bass, "It Takes Two to Make Things Go Right."
It takes two to make a thing go right.
Exactly. Thank
It
you.
takes two to make it out of sight. I can't believe you remember that song. I think you were probably 4 years old at that time.
I'm a song geek. What can I say?
Okay, all right. That was my generation.
Some of your generation, I'll admit, it was pretty good. So you were meeting a lot of people, but then I come, right? With the Autism Rocks and Roll shirts giving you this big, giant teddy bear hug almost. So what were your first thoughts of me?
Very sweet and very energetic. Shame on me. You did a promo contest to do a promo, which is talking on the mic, and I missed it. You know, when people trinkle in your table, you can't go, "Sorry, I gotta go." That's so snobby. I think it's conceited. And I was like, oh man. And so I was like, I missed your promo and excited. And that's what us wrestlers really enjoy seeing when someone is excited to meet you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Part of it was probably me being a childhood dream come true. I mean, getting to meet lots of wrestlers. I mean, I met some before, and for the listeners, I've had Mick Foley on, Al Snow, RVD, Raven, which is a big shocker because he's definitely a good guy. I would never bash Raven. Raven's amazing, but I think he's kind of picky.
Yes. And so am I. I'll be honest with you. But when I met you, when you told me you had a podcast, you're like, "I want you to be on my podcast." I go, "Absolutely." And that's when Scott and Jared from Heated Shenanigans, right? They reached out. He goes, "He's wanting to set up the interview." And I was like, "Okay, what day? Just give me a couple dates because sometimes we're filming for our God TV show." Yes, I'm happy to finally do it.
Me too. You love apparently that body's performance. So karaoke, ring a
I
bell?
love karaoke. I love karaoke. That's my guilty pleasure, but I don't think I should be guilty about it. If someone says, "Oh, there's karaoke," and I'm like, "What time? Where at? Where is this?" I don't have a voice of a songbird, but I do love karaoke. And did you see when I dragged Mickey James on stage? She was like, "Oh, Lisa." I'm like, "We have to do
No, I
Redneck
probably
Woman."
left at that time. But what'd you think of
Oh,
body's performance?
amazing. I like people that they're not shy about it. I think get up there, even if you don't sing well, you can make a fool of yourself. It's still enjoyment.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
fun fact for you. I wasn't that guy 50 years ago. Ago. I was
Yeah.
basically more of the guy hiding in the corner. Almost think of it as the boogeyman eating worms. Except I didn't eat
You
the
just
worms, it's just I couldn't fit in with people.
But that's normal as being young. I think when you're growing up and you're a teenager or just young, you got to find your crowd that you actually fit in. But I find that odd because in wrestling, when you go to these after parties and all these dinners, I think everybody fits in because we're all nerds about it and we all are marks and we all are fans of wrestling. So that unites us. And I don't think there's any shame in that. So I'm glad you grew out of that.
I think it was part of my fault because just low self-esteem and just being afraid of getting judged on what the next guy will judge you on. And as you can remember, being 14, people look at you and every day they don't have time for some statements that you may see or may not see through this podcast will come out and they sound a lot better in my head. But when you spin them out, it's what now?
Yeah, exactly. And also, too, I think you're not different than any other kid as a 14-year-old. We're all insecure and afraid to be judged and trying to fit in. You don't want to be singled out as like an oddball, but every kid goes through that. I even went through that as an adult in WWE. I didn't know who to hang out. I was so scared to be there. I was so new. And I was like, oh my God, people are judging me because I'm not really super experienced. And I think every job you go into, you're going to be insecure. Every new school, when you go from junior high to high school, you feel that insecure. And that insecurity, I like to say, I'm 52, you're never going to get over the insecurity. You're always going to feel it. You're always going to feel it. It's just, that's a natural human response.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
in return, I think you kind of hate it when you see others. So basically, when you're wrestling, even though that kids at the time don't see the struggles, they think it's a dream, right? They're like, "Oh, we're in the ring. They get to see people. Everyone's treating you with respect." I didn't see that. Not anyone treating me with respect because of me being different. So at that time frame, watching you, even though it was a dream come true for me, you were kind of the problem unintentionally.
I became the bully. Also, you can say that my character was an oddball. Like in my generation of wrestling, each wrestler was so individual that the fan can relate to a certain wrestler because they're like, oh, they're like me. And that's the important part about picking your character, is trying to identify with the crowd and make them feel what you're feeling. Like, I was the giant girl beating up Trish Stratus. So everybody loved Trish Stratus because she's the smaller girl, and I overcame her and became the bully. But they can identify her struggling against a bully like myself, but conquering.
Right, exactly. With the villain, you got to make being evil fun. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the case? Because you were cool as a villain, the NWO was cool as a villain, and they got over 24/7 with shirts.
Okay, so I got over with the crowd. Like, I was getting a big fan base when I was evil, and that's why they turned me babyface, because I was starting to have a huge fan base. So they thought, oh no, she's supposed to be hated, but people started loving me because I was so not the cookie cutter wrestler. I was the big girl. I wasn't the Barbie doll type. I really liked being the villain. I'll be honest with you. It was easier for me. Most of these girls you meet, they're really tiny. So the Goliath, I was the giant against the smaller people. It's easy to hate me because I'm a bully in the ring, not in real life.
Right.
Yes.
That's what Mick Foley happened too when he was Mankind in 1996. I mean, he said himself on the bio, he was like, there was no turn. It's just more and more people cheered for me.
I wish they didn't turn me babyface. That was a difficult turn for me. I didn't know how to be a babyface. That's why I came out kissing babies and going to little kids and giving them a hug. I didn't know how to do it because I was such a good heel than a babyface. It was a real struggle because to get people to love you is very difficult in the ring because you are out there being judged too.
I'm surprised with that though, because you're not that person outside the ring. So couldn't you maybe who you would have brought outside in the ring to who you were inside?
It was hard because I started such like a bad girl in the ring, and to turn me automatic, like, boop, good guy. I was like, I was a heel for so long. How am I going to get these people to love me? I'm going to need a really good heel to wrestle to make people love me and beat me up so that I can get sympathy. Yeah, that was my personality outside the ring. But like when I hear my entrance song, I like clicking into that character going, all right, this is wrestling, baby. This is wrestling. And I like doing characters. So
maybe for that babyface, you should have fought Kane. Maybe that would have gotten you over.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, speaking of Trish, we were talking earlier. When did you learn that you were going to feud with Trish Stratus?
When I got to TV, they don't really email you a script. Every time you traveled, you would get to the building early and they would tell you, hey, you're going to be doing this tonight. We don't know prior to the weekend before. We learn at the show. So that also prevents leakage to the website to know what we're going to do. So when I found out about that, and she actually pitched, I want to work with Victoria, it was an honor. And we had some killer matches. We had an agreement. Let's say sorry now. Let's just have a good match. We might accidentally take a punch. We might really hurt each other. We didn't mean to, but you get so engulfed in the wrestling match that we had an agreement. I'm not really meaning to hurt you, but let's put a good show on. Yeah, she was amazing.
I think she hurt you more from hearing interviews. You got your nose broken by her.
That was from the trash can, though. Like on the 2002 at the Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden, she catapulted me into the trash can in the corner, and the trash can popped out in my face and broke my nose and chipped my tooth. I'm sure she didn't really mean to do that, but after that match, when I watch it, that's most everybody's favorite match, but it's difficult for me to watch it because I remember I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I blanked out at that point because I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Oh my gosh, my eyes are wandering. I can't see. But that's the art about wrestling too, Sam. You got to think on your feet. We don't choreograph everything we're doing out there. It's a show. And if something goes awry, you got to be able to think on your feet to correct it. So it's just a one-time gig. It's not like a movie where you're like, hey, you messed up on that line. Let's do it again. We don't have that option.
Oh,
we get one time.
And that's what I actually love, because I would not be good at that. I'm not thinking I've considered myself an actor before, but I've always, had that in the back of my mind thought like, well, I'll probably be a good actor. But then I think, oh, well, wait a minute. There's a certain script. And I am okay with the script to a point, but I'm more of an on the fly guy. The adrenaline takes over. So, I mean, maybe the next thing you know, I'm giving Sheamus's 10 beats of the Bottering, but then I'm thinking, oh, I'm at an RKO now.
And also, too, in wrestling, the backstage promos, we don't get something written down for us. They just tell us verbally, just make sure you plug in this, make sure you do this, make sure you do this, and then put it in your own words. So we have to go, hey, check me out on this date. I'm going to destroy. We would just go into our own words.
I love that. That's my style of working with people, though.
It's almost like improv. When you go to a theater and someone throws out a subject and you just go with it. That's improv.
That's the thing. I suck at acting, but I'm wonderful at improv. Go figure. You're talking about backstage moments or something kind of kooky. Was there any moments in wrestling where you didn't think, oh, I'm not doing it, but you thought, this is what we're doing right now? I'm doing this. Was there a comical backstage moment you had?
Okay, so when there's a scene, I was with the Godfather girls with Godfather. We did a shower scene. I was with the other girl, the other Godfather hoe, and we were doing a shower scene with Eddie. Of course, we're not naked in the shower. We have the showers running, but we have a towel and a bathing suit on back there. And I was like, we're supposed to, two girls taking a shower with Eddie. I go, what the heck am I doing? Of course, you don't say, no, I'm not doing it because this is the show. But I'm like, I hope my parents don't watch this segment.
I'm like, whatever. With me, I'm like, all right, you're going to hang me upside down with the rope? All right, what the heck? You know what? I've done dumber things, so.
Of course, I didn't say anything. I just did it. It's the show. You want to be easy to work with. If you're difficult to work with, you're not going to get a lot of segments.
I'm going to be like, I ain't doing this. You kidding me? But I'd be like, really, dude? This is what we're doing right now? Really?
The only time I said no, they wanted to change my character to Demi Moore when she was G.I. Jane. So they wanted to shave my head. And I said, please don't. I go, I'm super insecure about, I don't think I'll look good bald. And then we were in the generation when girls were supposed to be really attractive and meek and very confident stuff. I go, please, I'm not comfortable shaving my head because I do not look like Demi Moore. And I went to Fit Finley with Sergeant Slaughter's idea about that. I still give him rave about that. And I went to Fit Finley. I go, please tell him I am not comfortable shaving my head, honestly. And most of my moves, I pulled my hair, and my finisher was the widow's peak after my hairline. And I was like, you're taking away a lot of my stuff. I do. So that was the only time I didn't say, no, I'm not doing it. But I had a lot of people say that she's not going to perform as well. So that was
boo-hoo on them.
But they didn't make me. They didn't do it.
All right, that's good. And that was for Molly Holly, right?
No, that was way before. They wanted me to do it way earlier than that match, way earlier, just as a character, not a hair versus hair. But then Molly Holly was the one that pitched at WrestleMania 20. I want to be the first girl to get her head shaved on WWE.
And you were the one saying you don't want to do it. I'll be like, oh, heck yeah, I want to do that. I always want to try going bald. I'd be like, ooh, let's do it. Me.
She's like, I want to be the first. And then they asked her, who do you want to wrestle? And she said, I want to wrestle Victoria. And so that's how I got that WrestleMania 20. It's always nice to be nice to people that you work with. And I'm very giving in the ring, whatever someone wants to do. Okay, you want to do that move? Okay, we're going to do it. Okay. I never said, oh, I don't think we should do this. I'm too big of a character to do this. I was very giving, and that's why I had a longevity. I was good with the newbies.
Did you take any newbies under your wing?
Yes,
Mentored them.
Chrissy Hemme, Lena Yada, all the girls that came from the Diva Search, and Brooke Tessmacher. Ivory, Lisa Moretti from Ivory Right to Censor. She took me under her wing when I first came to WWF at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be like that. I want to treat people with respect. Even though they came from modeling, I don't care. They're coming to even make a chance at wrestling, and you got to give them respect to want to come in there and get a beating.
I like Ivory's Right to Censor. I know a lot of people hated Right to Censor, but I loved it. I'm like, I loved it. This is amazing. If people told me I would live my life like this, I'd be booing them too. They're fun to hate.
She was amazing. And then she didn't have a script. She just talked what she talked. And yeah, she's amazing. She came from acting in the past. So she was really good at improv. Excellent wrestler. One of my role models in wrestling.
So now, what is your favorite match that you were in, or not, either one, in or out, doesn't matter, from your time in WWE?
Well, my favorite match that I was in was, we did a Halloween costume, and I was a sumo wrestler. Do you remember that one? No?
I actually do remember that. I had WWE Network, so I actually did this really cool project. It was kind of cool, but time consuming. But you know what? When you love something so much, you're going to do it. From 1985 to what year? Around your time frame. And I think I stopped at 29 because I was getting tired of it. But I watched all the wrestling pay-per-views.
Okay, so I did that match, did the sumo outfit, which weighed a ton. So I did it in my mind going, these girls can't lift me out of the ring. This is a rumble. We have to throw each other off the top rope, right? And I was like, they're not going to be able to lift me out of the ring. I'm going to win this. But when I got to the ring, all the girls were laughing so hard that they almost peed their pants. And that was my favorite because it wasn't so serious. And to see everybody break character in the ring going, oh my, Victoria, oh my, you're hilarious.
I remember that actually. It seemed like that. Was Trish laughing the hardest? It seemed like she was about to die.
Mickey James was like laughing. She was like, I'm gonna pee my pants. And I was like, you guys, we only have 2 minutes left to get this match done, because you only have a certain amount of time for a match. And she was laughing the hardest. I started laughing when Tori Wilson and myself, she was a football player. And when she started, she got up and she goes like this. And then she's sweet as pie. To see her try to look tough, I said, oh my God, you're the cutest thing ever. And she goes, shut up. I'm trying to look tough.
You should have been like a
Yeah.
Victoria character. Oh my God, you're the cutest thing ever.
I go, you're the cutest. Yeah. Of course, no one saw me say that, but I'm like doing my whole sumo thing. And I'm like, oh my God, you're the cutest ever. Look at you trying to be tough.
Now it's something kind of interesting. So I want to look at, let's pretend there's a diagram here. So we have Victoria and Lisa Marie Varon. Are there any similar character traits that Victoria and Lisa Marie Varon have?
Yes, there's probably just one. I'm not really that mean. I'm a little crazy. I'm one of those loud people, no filter. I like to make people laugh and react. But I think one character is you don't know what to expect when you meet me or what I'm going to say. Just be on your toes when you meet me.
I'm afraid I don't understand. Can you go further in depth?
Okay. Yeah. Like, I think when people meet me, like, I don't think they realize I'm such a jokester. That's a surprise to people. And then as my psycho Victoria, you're surprised of what I'm going to do and how badly I want to win the match. So everything I do is like going, I didn't expect you to do that. And I'm like, well, never expect anything from me because you're going to get something you're just not going to expect,
Right. I'm the same way with joking though. My humor is like child bathroom humor.
Okay, good. Yay. I didn't hear any of that, Sam. I mean, I didn't hear
once you get to know me outside and people who are listening, I keep a public image, but when I hang out, the moment I probably gonna go tell the joke, oh hey guys, I gotta go. It was about this size,
It's funny because it's like you want to get to know a lot of the fans like in person, but you see like when someone else is trying to get in line to meet you, start a conversation, you're like, oh gosh, there's someone else wanting to meet me, and it gets cut off, like so suddenly. But you're like, okay, we'll come back, we'll talk later. And then by the time they come back, there's someone else in line. So it's very hard to get to know the real people unless like they go to the karaoke or the after parties at these things.
Maybe they just have to move them. Maybe like, all right, I was here first. Move it.
Yeah,
Victoria wants me. Now, how would you describe your ring style? Because I think it's definitely powerhouse, but I think there's some other elements to it.
I was a gymnast as a kid. I was a cheerleader because dance background. How I got that psycho character is that they said, you wrestle really crazy. And I go, I wrestle Memphis style, which is old school where it's very exaggerated. So my exaggeration was how I got that psycho thing too. And also I am the one that catches everybody, let them do their flippity doodles, even though I was a gymnast, but I was a big girl. Let them do all their fancy stuff and I'll catch them.
So you just added powerhouse with gymnastics.
That was it.
But there's one move that's kind of special, the Widow's Peak. How did Molly Holly approach you about the Widow's Peak?
She saw Roderick Strong do this Widow's Peak. It wasn't called Widow's Peak, but she saw him do it at an independent show. She came back to TVs. She goes, Victoria, I have a finisher for you. And I'm like, okay. She goes, okay, pick me up in a power bomb, hook my neck. I'm going to hook my legs. And she goes, drop to your bottom. And I go, what? I have your neck. She goes, I'll be okay. And we did it outside in WWE and everybody was watching, not just us. Everybody was just like going, I want to try something new. We would go out there to kind of also not practice, but go over new repertoire, new moves. And everybody saw that and they went, oh, they were like, oh my gosh. And then Vince saw it. And then she saw Vince. She goes, how do you like that finisher bit for Victoria? He goes, are you okay? She goes, yeah. He goes, I love it. And then that's how I was giving it to it. So thank you, Roderick Strong. Thank you, Molly Holly.
Better than the snap suplex, I'll tell you that much as a finisher.
Yes, I know. I love doing the snap. That was my favorite move to do until the Widow's Peak.
It's just that if that's going to be your finisher, you got to find a way to make it like effective as crap.
I didn't mean to do that because that Survivor Series, I was supposed to crack the mirror on Trish's head. And when we were running, she stepped on the mirror and it crumbled to pieces. So the finish got messed up. So I just go, I know there's a fire extinguisher. And my go-to move was always a snap suplex. So that's why I did it. And that wasn't planned. That's why I hate watching that match too.
You know what's cool? I watched it again just to see. You did really good hiding it. I didn't notice.
The show must go on. Can't show mistakes on your face.
Yeah, because I'd be like, oh, shoot. Now, we got to talk about this amazing personality because you're the second person I've had on the show due to kindness. The other guy, and I'll just promote him real quickly for the listeners, and I'll tell you about him too. C223, Rock Your Appetite with Tommy Stevens. But Tommy was a competitor on Hell's Kitchen, season 9. And you would think, based on looking at him, and he's said this himself, he's not successful because he's tattooed head to toe. There's a stigma with tattoos, like people from head to toe. They think you're ex-gangbangers. You're not safe to be around. Not Tommy. When you talk to him, one of the nicest people you will ever meet. And he's an executive chef.
And that's when people judge. They shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Shame on people for thinking that. I'll be honest with you. Today's date, we shouldn't be thinking that. Honestly, I grew up like all these wrestlers had tattoos and they're the nicest people.
But he's even said himself, he made a really joke. He was on Cutthroat Kitchen, which was another cookie show, and he said, I've only been arrested 8 times. I thought, wow. He didn't really. He was being sarcastic, but
Okay.
being kind with his personality. Who was probably the biggest influence that taught you to be kind? Was it your family, a mother? And where did that nice personality come from?
See, my parents are very coachable. My mom could talk to anybody at the grocery store. Like, we wouldn't leave the grocery store, she's talking to the cashier. I have 3 older brothers. We're all big personalities. If you come to dinner at our house, you can't get a word in. We're all talking over each other. It's loud. We're banging on the dishes. But my oldest brother got his gold medal in the Pan Am Olympics for high school wrestling and college wrestling. And he set the example, I think, growing up, where he was such a people person, Mr. Popular, nice to every person on the planet, even regardless, you're homeless, you're crazy. And I grew up with that. I don't think it's taught. I think it's just part of your upbringing as a kid. So I've never been a mean spirit person, only as my character in wrestling.
Right. But that personality, I mean, I said it myself. You have this aura where when people leave, they feel better about themselves. I mean, I've seen it happen through the testimonies via Facebook and even with myself. I mean, when I walk, I'm not literally kidding. The moment I walked away from you, I was like, no, I actually feel really good now for 5 seconds. But then I got excited again. For 5 seconds, I was like, she made me feel like I'm like a gold medalist, metaphorically, clearly. Where did that amazing personality of yours come from? Was it the outspokenness of your parents? Was it the fact that did you learn a valuable life lesson? And again, this is me just being curious.
I think it's just my mom and dad. They're people persons. The type of mom that goes, someone comes over for a cup of sugar. This is really old school, by the way. My mom was just a lovely person and talked to everybody. And I think I just was surrounded. I think my family, my mom and dad, my 3 brothers gave me love and be confident of like who the heck you are and seeing how they interacted with people. I think I probably just learned it from my family. I'll be honest with you.
Why don't I tell you about me, where I learned it? What the heck of it? But my grandfather is actually where I learned it from. My parents too, obviously. Obviously, parents number one. But where I think about it like in depth, it's my grandfather. For the listeners and for you, C122 Meet Big Joe for more information. But the nice way to say it is his family's crazy. Like lots of his family members are crazy. I mean, they've had their own issues. I won't get into what the issues are, but they're sometimes like really like cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. My point is here, even though we're cuckoo, we know love. And that's all you need to win in this world is love is love. I mean, they're still like very childhood spirit. I mean, they still believe in giving you gifts. They still believe in, I know in my childhood when we had Christmas parties and we still do, I don't do this anymore just because of growing up, but they would bring the kids together. My aunt would always play a guitar and they would bring like, the kids stuff, would play like little kid instruments.
I grew up with karaoke. My mom played the piano and our family gatherings were all of us in the living room singing country roads, like all these old songs. That was our Saturday, or until my brothers got to college, they were away. But still, when we get together with my family for the holidays, Thanksgiving, all the holidays, my brother has a karaoke machine and we start doing that and the party does not end. Tears start rolling. And because we think about childhood and like memories and stuff like that. So yeah,
I think it comes along with our personalities too, because we're very open people. Like there's some people who won't, kind of don't want to do that because of certain reasons. But then there's some who are like very open. One example I can think of is my cousin, who is probably like my best friend. We're very close, but he wanted to play this kind of child pie game. Now, if you were boring, you would say no because of just growing up. But me being an adult, I'm like this big kid at heart going like, okay, sure, let's do it.
I don't know what's the pie game?
This yellow thing with this toy hand, and these two people would be on the side. You push the button like 24/7 to get.
I remember that. I remember that.
Push
game.
that,
I
and then
totally remember that.
whoever pushed it, the other side stop, will get pied.
That is hilarious. Oh my God. I'm very close to my family and used to live in Chicago. And this is why I moved back to California. I lost my mom 6 years ago, but my dad is still here and I have my 3 brothers here. And I wanted to be close to my family because I was missing out on being on the road with WWE. You miss anniversaries, you miss Christmas, you miss Thanksgiving. Like there's all these holidays you miss. And I wanted to be close to home where if I want to go for a barbecue to my brother's house, I just drive over or take the train and I'm there.
Living by family is the greatest. I live by family too. And oh man, anytime I go see my grandparents, it's literally a walking distance.
Oh, that's nice. I'm jealous.
It's great, man. I definitely use that luxury when I can.
Take advantage of that. I think I was talking a couple friends, like I feel guilty. My mom called and I put it on voicemail and I'm like, don't do that because I wish my mom bothered me 24/7 now because family's important. You never know what's going to happen. And I think you realize that a little late in life because you go through that teenage phase where you're like, okay, well, I'm too busy right now, but you need to make time for family.
I do want to talk to you about your TNA career. So how did you end up in TNA?
I didn't plan on going to TNA. I had my last match and I was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life because I was still older, but I was like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And then 30 days later, there's a no complete. You can't go to another company after 30 days. 31st day, I got a call from TNA. We want to sign you here. And I was watching TNA because Gail, Kim, and Awesome Kong had amazing matches. And I was like, well, let me try it. They wanted to sign me for 3 years. I said, let me do 1 year. Let me see if it's even for me. And there were some girls that I never wrestled before in my career. I had an amazing time. Most of my close friends are from there. And I'm in ODB's wedding in June. I'm the maid of honor. So I made some amazing friends. I'm very thankful about that. I had a good time.
Yeah, I could tell TNA was definitely a fun, but you brought a spider. Where the heck did that come from?
Not my idea. Since I was known as Black Widow in WWE, I came to the TNA show and they said, are you Tara? And I go, oh yeah, yes, I'm Tara. They're like, well, these are for you. And in boxes, there were the tarantulas. And they're like, well, you're going to put this on the body after you hit your widow's peak. And I'm like, what? And they were like, are you okay with that? And of course, you don't say no. I just said, I'll try it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And I go, are they venomous? And they're like, yes. And I go, well, what happens when I get bit? And they said, are you allergic to bees? And I said, I've never got stung by a bee. They're like, well, it feels like a bee sting. And I go, okay, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's do it. So that's how it happened. I went with it and I felt like Jake the Snake. I felt cool.
My issue is, here's the deal. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do it. But if he bites me, it's on your.
But they were like, every match I did that with the spider, and I would tell the referee, it's going to bite me. It's going to bite me. I can tell that it's wiggling really weird. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'll take the bite. I'm not going to drop it. I'm not going to do anything until I get backstage and I'll give it to them. But you sign a contract. Whatever happens in the ring happens in the ring.
But that would just scare me. I'd be like, don't like say maybe that was kind of harsh, but you got to have my back at least if something happens here. That just includes staying in the hospital with me one night. So be it.
I tore my knee in the ring. I hyperextended my elbow. Things happen in the ring. And so I would just say, this is part of wrestling. If I get bit, I get bit. What am I going to do? That's wrestling, but I enjoyed it. I started to embrace it.
Now, since we did this with WWE, let's do this with TNA. What was your favorite match that you were in or out? Like I said, doesn't matter from your time in TNA.
My cage matches with Mickey and Awesome Kong. I had a lot of fun wrestling ODB because we would try to make each other laugh in those matches, but our cage matches, not my favorite to do because a lot of injuries happen, but it was amazing.
Are there any differences or similarities to WWE and TNA?
The big difference, and it's not the same now, but when I was in TNA, WWE was very much more organized. The pay was better. I remember looking on Twitter and it says the pay-per-view matches for Impact or TNA. And I was looking at it and I go, wait, today's Saturday, tomorrow's pay-per-view. I have a match tomorrow. And I called TNA and I was like, hey, I don't have a flight for tomorrow. I'm on pay-per-view. I just saw on Twitter. They're like, oh my God, we didn't send you a flight. So the organization, but they're different now. They have different bosses, very organized now. Gail Kim's the agent there too.
And plus that experience that Kale has is going to come into play with organizing because she's been a wrestler. So I do want to talk to you about something that you were, and that's a business lady. So you had a lot of business ventures. So did you always have that business mindset?
No, my ex-husband, he ran businesses. He was a great chef. And so he wanted to do the restaurant and I was the face. I brought people in because it was all wrestling based, or of course, like you said, I have a personality. So I would go table to table and make sure everybody's happy. And like, my last adventure was the Squared Circle restaurant. And I got to go table to table watching wrestling on television, coming to pay-per-views, watching, it was an AEW, but all the independent wrestling. We did WWE nights, we did TNA nights, and we did independent nights and then NXT nights. So I was part of my gig was I just went table to table eating pizza, talking wrestling to everybody, and that was it. So that was I'm good at that.
Now I do want to talk to you about your friendship with Tori and Trish. So what were your first thoughts of Tori Wilson and Trish Stratus when you first met them way before WWE?
We met the fitness industry. Tori and I competed in fitness and Trish was in the fitness industry as well. So I knew them back then. When I saw them, I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's what gave me the inkling, maybe this is for me to be in wrestling. And that's when I met Chyna. And I said, hey, I have two friends in the business, Trish and Tori. They're like, she goes, wow, you have a really good look. You're muscular like her and you have a really good look. You should wrestle. And that's when I send my stuff in and I got a call 30 days later and they wanted to meet me. I went to wrestling school and the rest is history. It bit me in the butt.
Kind of karma for you, right?
Yes. I thought I was not going to be good at it. I thought it was going to last 3 months and ended up, I'm still in the business doing signings. And this weekend I'm doing I'm refereeing, I think, this weekend. I'm not even sure until I get there. This business, once you're in, you can't get out. It's
Gotcha.
part of your life.
Now, real quickly, you said Stevie Richards was a big influence in your career. So how did Stevie Richards help you launch your career?
He didn't launch it, but when I was with him, he would keep me calm because I was one of those people that want to throw up before my matches. I get an upset stomach because I worried so much and I was so nervous, but he would pull me aside, give me the confidence, and I never went over anything we did. I go, it was all organic. We're like, do what you do as a psycho. I'm here for you. And I remember licking his face once and he goes, oh my God, I was only supposed to smell. I go, and I ended up biting his ear and licking his face. And he goes, what was that? And I go, I'm so sorry. And he goes, no, that was great. So it was always just organic with him, you know?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
That I watched that. I thought, dang, you bit hard.
No, I didn't. I didn't bite hard. It was just all,
Sure.
it was face expressions.
So what is your paradise meal or favorite
We have
food?
2 minutes just to let you know.
Okay.
My favorite food?
Yeah.
My favorite food is Korean barbecue and then Japanese. I always love pizza. So yes, Korean barbecue.
What is your favorite movie or TV show and why do you like it?
My favorite show right now is Succession. It's intense. More of an anime lover. I like Squid Games because my mom's from Japan, so the Asian culture is really in my family. My favorite movie, Princess Bride with Andre the Giant. I do like good comedy, love story, and a happy ending.
Now, what has been your
Yeah.
favorite vacation that you've ever taken? Why did you enjoy that vacation very much?
My vacation was probably Hawaii a couple years ago with my boyfriend. It was very relaxing. We had all these plans to do stuff, but we just sat on the beach and just vegged out, had romantic dinners, watched fireworks, and it was beautiful. And we went where all the locals went. So
And that's where my parents went when they were in Destin. Definitely a good one right
you need
there.
to visit.
It is a good spot to
go.
visit. Well, folks, I think that is
Yes.
it. Victoria, is there anything you'd like to say before we head out?
I just want to say thank you so much, Sam, for having me on the show, and to all the fans that follow me and being so loyal and being so nice and like bringing back so many memories when you meet me and the stories. I just really appreciate the support, and I'm having a good time. Honestly, I love wrestling, and wrestling is life. That's all I have to say. Give your mom a big kiss from me. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks for joining for this episode. Please tune in for another episode coming in very soon. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble. Thank you very much.